The first scream didn't come from a patient. It came from inside the emergency room itself, sharp and humiliating, slicing through the sterile air as the chief surgeon's hand yanked the quiet nurse's hair in front of everyone, freezing the monitors, the nurses, the interns, and even the rushing stretchers in stunned silence. Because in that single violent moment, authority crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet strength that changes lives, take a moment right now to like this video. Share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. She had always been invisible by choice, the kind of nurse who moved like a shadow between trauma bays, memorizing heart rhythms, catching medication errors before they happened, and cleaning blood from floors long after the doctors left. Her name badge was faded, her voice soft, her posture slightly curved as if she had learned early that taking up less space meant surviving longer. In the chaos of the ER, she absorbed shouting, blame, and exhaustion without complaint, because nursing had once saved her life, and she believed it was her duty to give that salvation back quietly. The chief surgeon, however, was a different force entirely. Brilliant, worshipped, feared. His hands could restart hearts and stop careers with equal precision, and no one questioned him, not even when his temper burned hotter than the surgical lights. On that night, when a trauma case spiraled out of control and a split-second decision went wrong, he needed someone smaller to blame, someone safe to humiliate, and the quiet nurse was close enough. The moment his fingers tangled in her hair, time seemed to stutter. The ER had seen blood, death, and despair, but public cruelty from a godlike figure shook it differently. Interns stared at the floor. Senior nurses clenched their jaws. Security hesitated. The nurse herself didn't cry or scream. Instead, something ancient and steady settled into her chest, the same calm she used during codes, the same clarity she once used when her own life hung by a thread. She remembered being a patient years ago, powerless and unheard, and how one nurse's steady presence had kept her alive when no one else noticed she was slipping. That memory didn't weaken her. It straightened her spine. She finished stabilizing the patient with trembling hands that never missed a step, then walked away without looking back, her hair disheveled but her focus unbroken. What no one knew was that the quiet nurse carried more than charts in her pockets. She carried notes, dates, times, patterns. She had watched residents reduced to tears, nurses transferred without explanation, mistakes hidden behind intimidation. She had learned the system not to climb it, but to protect herself within it. That night, instead of going home, she sat in her car under the flickering parking lot lights and wrote everything down while her hands still shook. She filed reports the hospital had trained everyone to believe were useless. She requested footage. She emailed compliance officers who had never learned her name. Each action felt small, almost futile, but together they formed something solid, something undeniable. Days passed, then weeks, and the hospital moved as it always did, pretending nothing had happened. The chief surgeon continued his rounds, his confidence intact, his authority unquestioned. But the quiet nurse was changing. She spoke a little louder. She stood a little straighter. Other nurses began sitting beside her in the break room, sharing stories they had never dared to tell. A resident thanked her for helping fix a medication error she wasn't even responsible for. A patient's family wrote a letter praising her calm hands during the worst night of their lives. These moments didn't erase the trauma, but they stitched something stronger in its place, a sense that silence was no longer her only option. Then the review board meeting happened quietly, without announcement or spectacle. Files were opened. Footage was watched. Patterns were traced. What stunned the ER wasn't a dramatic arrest or public apology, but the sudden absence of a man everyone believed untouchable. The chief surgeon was placed on leave pending investigation, his reputation unraveling not because of one incident, but because someone small had refused to let the truth disappear. When the news spread, the ER didn't erupt in celebration. It exhaled. Nurses cried in supply closets. Interns slept better. Patients noticed a gentler tone in the hallways, and the quiet nurse returned to work the next day, wearing her faded badge, doing her job as she always had, only now people saw her. Her victory wasn't loud or triumphant. It was the steady hum of a safer workplace, the knowledge that dignity mattered even in chaos. She never sought recognition, never told her story in meetings or interviews. But when new nurses arrived, shaking and overwhelmed, she was the one who showed them where the gloves were kept, who taught them how to breathe during their first code, who reminded them that silence could be a refuge, but it didn't have to be a prison. In saving herself, she had quietly changed the culture of an entire ER, proving that strength didn't always look like shouting or power. It could look like patience, documentation, and the courage to stand after being pulled down. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone who stands quietly for what's right, please take a moment now to like the video, share it, and subscribe to see. Your engagement helps more stories of courage reach the people who need them. Before the ending, I have one special request. Comment below with a single word that represents strength to you. The quiet